Hey, welcome to 1818 Farms. I'm the owner, Natasha McCrary, and today we're going to discuss vessels or vase preparation for your bouquets. That's one of the most common questions I receive is I start to build my bouquet and I can't get the flowers to stand upright. They fall over. A lot of that has to do with the width of the mouth of your vessel or your vase. And we have a lot of different vases here on the table today that we're going to discuss kind of our tricks and our tips that we use here to make arranging very, very simple. So what we're going to start with today is I'm going to tell you a little bit about the different things we use. So what we do, and it's a little bit difficult to see on this vase, is we use a clear tape. It's called a waterproof floral tape, and we make a little X on our vase. You really want it to be clear because you're going to hide the mechanics on the side. You try not to go down too far, but if this gets wet, it will pop up. But there are a couple of different types of tapes that I prefer. And most of these come from the floral, like a wholesale house. And this is going to be a clear, and it's probably a half-inch tape that we use on a wider mouth. This is a clear quarter-inch tape that we use on some of the smaller ones, but also to tape in a flower frog out of chicken wire. And this is one of my favorite tapes that I like to use when I really need a lot of strength, but you need to be able to hide this. The thing I like about the beauty about the clear is I would probably never use the green tape on the clear. I would use it on something like that's made out of porcelain or concrete that it needs a little bit more get a little bit more strength in it, and you're going to have a little bit more weight on it. And this tape, to find this, it's by Oasis. It's a quarter-inch waterproof tape. I just want you guys to be able to see this because sometimes this is a little bit more difficult to find than the clear tape. So we're going to go through why on each vessel we use the tape versus the chicken wire. And I'm going to show you our chicken wire. We build what's kind of like called a flower frog, but it's a flower frog on a budget. And we just go to, I think I got this at Home Depot, and it's a pretty large roll of green chicken wire. You can get the silver. I prefer the green because it's coated, so it's less chance that it's going to rust. Like once someone gave me their grandmother's beautiful antique champagne bucket. It has a super wide mouth, probably 12 inches wide. I don't want to make a use uncoated chicken wire in grandma's expensive antique and cause rust to go in there. So I like this, and also it blends in more with the stem. So this is kind of what I prefer. So what we do is it comes in a long roll. You can kind of see how it rolled out here. And we just kind of measure the number of holes to the top of your container that you're going to use. And then we give a couple of inches more because I want to be able to make like a pillow is what you're thinking about. So on this one, we cut a piece like this, and we just kind of have a template. When we're cutting, we have a template we lay through, and we just cut with basic wire cutters. It's kind of a rectangle. And really, when anything goes 5.5 inches to more, I really feel like this is necessary, especially if it is a shorter vase. If you have a taller vase, like let's compare these two vessels. It's a little bit more narrow at the bottom. I'm going to have more control of a longer stem with it not flopping out the side. So I'm going to use tape on this one. This one I'm always going to create a flower frog. And we're going to kind of look here. I just brought the tape measure out. This will just be a visual to help y'all remember. It's almost 6 inches wide. And it just almost requires that you have this hand formed flower frog. So what we do, it's really important, and you're going to have to play with this. Like I've done a lot of these, and even me, sometimes you got to be careful not to scratch your hands, but you're going to just play with it. And what I like to do is I start with the side that I have a little bit more flexibility with, and I just mold it into the container. I want it to go down enough that I'm not going to worry about it popping out, but we're also going to come back and tape. And you see how I'm kind of spinning the vessel? And when you get to the end, you're going to have a little bit of excess, but I always just tuck that under and go further down. But what I want to do is once I get it in, I want to make sure, if you see inside now how the bottom of the wire is kind of coming to the middle of the vessel, I use like an old butter knife, and I just press this to the edges because you don't want this to be making it difficult on your stems as you start to fill in that you can't get to the bottom. So this is something I see people forget to do a lot. Okay, the other thing is once I get it in here, I kind of play with it. So I'm going to have some great little holes to place my stems. I like to make sure there's some open at the edges so that way, especially when you're using the chicken wire, I like it to come up a little bit taller, but I want to have good edges, holes on the edges here so I can kind of hide the mechanics. Like with something in this arrangement, even though we weren't using a chicken wire frog, we like to come over the edges with this eucalyptus or the cinnamon basil. Okay, so the thing you want to do, and I've seen people do this before and they forget, they make this frog or, chicken wire flower frog and they forget to tape it. And guess what's going to happen? It's going to come right out. So that is where this tape we were talking about. And on this one, I prefer the 1/4 inch tape because if I use a 1/2 inch tape, there's a good chance now I'm blocking this thicker chicken wire hole. It's really simple. You only need to go across one. I mean, sometimes people go across twice. I just kind of go to the center where I have a good, if you look through in the center here, I have a really nice even line. And I just go straight down. Straight down, have my scissors, tape, and make sure you really, really make sure it's taped to the side. You want to go a little bit lower than you think on the clear because if you don't and it gets wet, this will pop loose. So this is super simple. It's going to make your life so easy. You're going to be happy, happy, happy. These are going to be reusable. It's great. So someone would say, well, what would you do on this one? Remember how I talked about it's going to be a little bit longer stem? It's so much easier for me to control the stem that way. I'm going to go straight to tape on this one. But on this one, because the width is about 5.5 inches, I'm going to need more than I need on this one with an X because it's just not going to give me enough area to hold the stems. I'm just going to go, or kind of think a tic-tac-toe board. But the key is, y'all, is you have to make sure your vase is already washed, clean, and dry. If you try to apply this tape and it's wet, even though it says it's waterproof, it will pop off and you'll be sad when you're working on the arrangement and you get about halfway through and then you lose your form. I mean, eventually at some point it doesn't really matter because you get everything in there and it's tight. But it's very difficult. I think that was for me the most challenging thing is when I first started, and I'm self-taught pretty much, is trying to determine a way that I can hold the stems in. It look really nice. So we'll see here. Okay, so something like this, these are kind of what we're going to use. Now, I tell people don't limit yourself to going to the store and purchasing a vase. I collect hobnail. I don't know if any of you guys out there collect hobnail. I love it. It's difficult to use the tape. Even though the mouth isn't as wide as we were talking about, these edges will not hold the tape. They just won't happen. I've tried it. I tried it over and over. Hobnail will pop. So on this one, we're going to go the same concept as using the chicken wire, and I'll come back over with a very, very small piece of that 1/4 inch tape and just to secure it. I mean, I don't want to take much space up here because I don't have a lot of space to work with. So this one, I'm maybe not going quite through the center. I'm just going just to get a little, the tape's not going to hold great on the hobnail, but at least will get me until I get started. And you're going to be really happy with this. So think about this. You can use your champagne buckets. You can use old pitchers. You can use hobnail. I mean, there's so many things that you can use. Anything that holds water, I say, should be considered a vessel at your house. So this is an idea on the smaller. I'm simply going to go tape again. And I'm going to use the green tape. Given I wouldn't really use this because I never want the mechanics to show, that's part of like being your secret. You're like the magician flower arranger. You don't want people to know your secrets, but but just to let you guys see kind of how this green tape works. Because it's a smaller tape, thinner, the 1/4 inch. If it was a 1/2 inch, I would only do kind of an X. But because this is a smaller tape, it's going to be a little bit harder for me to do that. And like I said, I just want you guys to see how this tape looks. I probably wouldn't go quite as low here because you don't want to see it unless you have something cascading over the side that you're going to be able to hide it. And sometimes what I tell people to do is you can lift it up once you get the arrangement going and clip it so you can't see it. But I would really go clear on this, but I still want you guys to see just what this tape looks like. Just because, I wouldn't use it on either of these, but just I want you to get the look of it. And it gives you also a better way to kind of see when I say mapping out the grid. So today we've covered the techniques that you need and the mechanics for having your vessels and your vases ready to arrange. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel because next week we're going to have an episode on how to arrange what we consider a small bouquet. It's in this small round vase here. We're going to go through all the elements of the bouquet and how we arrange what the elements we're looking for and just how to make sure it's balanced as you spin the bouquet and get it ready for your either your house or gifting. So the YouTube channel is 1818 Farms. Thank you all for joining us today, and please let me know if you have any questions.